John Kobylt Show. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Hello, welcome. It's good that you're here. We're on every day from 1 until 4 o'clock. And then after 4 o'clock, John Kobylt Show on demand on the iHeart app. And that's the podcast. That's where you get to listen to whatever you missed today. I can believe this, but I can't believe this. I think you'll have the same reaction. Los Angeles Times is reporting that the Los Angeles Fire Department actually hired a public relations company to help craft the message after the Palisades Fire. And it is suspected that this public relations company had something to do with the writing of this infamous after-action report. And just to summarize, if you didn't hear the details, this all broke a few weeks ago. The fire department had an after-action report which was supposed to tell the truth to the public. Keep in mind that we pay the bills, and it's taxpayers' homes that got burned down, and actual taxpayers who died in the fire. And after the first fire chief, Kristen Crowley, was fired, the second interim fire chief, Ronnie Villanueva, engineered this after-action report, and we were told, as people got more and more impatient and had more and more questions, and it became obvious how much fire department officials botched the Palisades Fire, they said, "Oh, wait for the after-action report. Hey, wait until that." Well, as we found out, it was originally written by a guy, one of the battalion commanders, and his name was, Cook. And his report was rewritten 6 times. They actually found 7 different drafts of the after-action report. And the one thing that all the revisions did is constantly water down, downplay, distort who was to blame for the bad response to the fire. Starting with not putting the original fire out from the first completely and not sending up a crew when we got the warnings of the big winds for January 7th. And then they compounded with more and more and more. I don't, just bad actions. I don't think there were like mistakes. That'd be too generous. Mistakes made, you did your best and it just didn't work out. You didn't quite. No, this was total abandonment of the Palisades by choice. That's why Spencer Pratt's group used the phrase, "they let us burn," for their rally. If I was Spencer Pratt, I'd use that as his party affiliation. They let us burn party. So nobody wants to take responsibility for this watered-down, nonsense, garbage after-action report. The new fire chief, Jaime Moore, who we've had on the air, doesn't even want to find out who doctored it, who distorted it, saying, "Look, I know what went on. I know how we have to fix it." So he wants to wash his hands of the whole thing. And now it turns out, according to the LA Times, there's a public relations company called the Lead Company, LEDE. And by the way, the battalion chief who wrote the original report, his name is Kenneth Cook. The Lead Company, they do Hollywood celebrities. They do people like Reese Witherspoon, Charlize Theron, Rihanna, and the LA Fire Department. Now, it's one thing to hire a public relations agency when you want your new movie hyped or your latest album, or if sales don't go well or box office stinks or you get fired from a job or whatever, or you're involved in some romantic scandal. It's one thing to hire a public relations agency to fog up and lie about the story. But the truth is, a fire department has no business at all hiring a public relations agency to tell us why they didn't put out the fire efficiently. This is Unconscionable. A public relations agency. What the hell? Is everybody insane? This is a sign of insanity here. And what they did is they used money from the Los Angeles Fire Foundation. Now, that's a nonprofit. In fact, one of the biggest donors is Rick Caruso. He committed $5 million to the Fire Department Foundation. He's on the board, and it's the official nonprofit arm of the fire department. And this foundation is supposed to spend money on equipment and other programs because Karen Bass and Eric Garcetti defunded the fire department. And he says he had no idea that there was money going to this public relations company. The donation that our family made to the foundation, said Caruso, is specifically intended and limited to the protection and service of the city of Los Angeles. I don't want the money we donated going to a PR firm. Austin Butner came out and said similarly that for the lead company to be involved is an unconscionable lack of transparency. Karen Bass is pretending she knows nothing. So this is just another layer of deceit, another layer of misdirection. A public relations company? The last time I remember having to deal with a public relations company for a major story in Los Angeles was when the Los Angeles Archdiocese hired a company called Citric because Roger Mahoney was being accused of covering up all the pedophile priests in the Archdiocese. So they hired Citric and Company as a PR agent to obscure the story. Let me put it politely. But we figured it out anyway. Ken and I personally figured it out. So now they're back to that game of getting a Hollywood public relations agency to hide the truth about why fire officials blew the Palisades Fire and cost almost 7,000 homes and killed 12 people. And when we come back, I'll tell you about the latest non-answer from fire department officials now that they've been caught hiring the PR firm. That's coming up next. Here's what really matters, is the Los Angeles Fire Department officials completely botched the Palisades Fire, and they've been covering up the big botch. They've been lying, covering everything up. Karen Bass has been demanding it because she's so desperate to be the presiding mayor over the Olympics. And it's gotten worse because now we found out, and this is really important to understand the difference here. You got the Los Angeles Fire Department, and you have the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation. And the Fire Department Foundation has millions of dollars in assets, which they use to help the fire department buy equipment to improve their service. Because Karen Bass defunded the fire department, because we have half a fire department in Los Angeles. Eric Garcetti defunded the fire department. We have half a fire department. I can't say that enough. So some of the people who can afford it, they set up this fire foundation. Rick Caruso is a part of it. And get this. Somebody at the fire foundation bankrolled a public relations company called the Lead Company, LEDE, normally does Hollywood celebrities. Like I mentioned before, Reese Witherspoon, Charlize Theron, Rihanna, to name three. And the current fire chief, Jaime Moore, says he doesn't know what they did, but I'm assuming they had something to do with the after-action report because they're a public relations firm. I would think a PR firm was going to give advice to the fire chief because at the time, they didn't have a director of public information. Well, they may have rewritten the whole thing repeatedly. because the original writer of the report, a battalion chief named Kevin Cook, found it got rewritten 6 times to the point where he took his name off it. He didn't want to be associated with it because it's a big cover-up. So now even this Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation doesn't want to be connected to the hiring of the PR agency. Listen to this. Liz Lynn is president of the foundation. She wrote in an email to the LA Times, the Fire Department Foundation provided communications support by hiring the lead company. It's part of its mission to provide resources to the LAFD. The foundation was not involved in the services provided by the lead company. In other words, we had nothing to do with them maybe rewriting the report and covering up the truth. You don't hire a public relations company unless you want to cover up and distort truth. That's the only purpose of it. That's why Hollywood celebrities do this, because they have so much money on the line that they can't let a bad story about their bad movie or their bad TV show get too much mileage. And if they have some negative story in their family or in their romantic life or with a wife or a husband, they need that to be distorted and lied about too, because that'll cost them money if suddenly they have a bad public image. Well, the LA Fire Department, and I'm pinning this on the officials, really screwed this thing up. That's how you get 6 rewrites of the report that keeps watering it down and watering it down. And notice, everybody wants to say, I know nothing. The head of the fire department says, I know nothing. Karen Bass is in her office, we know nothing. Jaime Moore, I know nothing. That was the other guy. Nobody knows anything. In fact, Bass told the Times she did not work with the fire department to change the report. That's a technical report. I'm not a firefighter. Oh, what a... That's a big steamer. Notice how she changes the subject. I'm not an expert. You are an expert at lying and covering things up. That's what you wanted done. You didn't have to know the technical issues in firefighting. You just wanted to make sure that you and the fire chiefs and other named officials don't get blamed for it. So this is just another scandal on top of, I don't know, a dozen other scandals over the past year. But now you have the president of the Fire Foundation said, well, we didn't know what this was going to be spent on. Caruso saying, well, I hope my family's money wasn't spent on this. You have Jaime Moore saying, well, I don't know anything about this public relations. Everybody said, I don't want it, which you know what they did. They rewrote their report so that the fire officials can avoid blame for one of the biggest tragedy ever to hit Los Angeles. Disgusting and shameful, and they don't stop. They just keep lying and covering up, lying and covering up. I'm going to keep on top of this one, too. I guess we have to do all the work here.